I want to echo thanks for your patience. Thanks for being here. What a great day. Hopefully you heard my opening remarks. I'm not going to repeat them. I'm just going to say a few things. What we were looking for in our next AD, kind of what I mentioned in remarks earlier, is really important for me to find somebody that has that Nebraska work ethic and somebody who was smart, strategic. We all know college athletics is rapidly changing, so needed somebody who was thinking around, seeing around the corner before it happened to us. Somebody who was aligned with our vision for excellence across the institution, not just on the athletic field, but in the classroom, in the research lab, and in our outreach mission across the university. Someone who would need a lot of onboarding, who was familiar with the Big Ten room, and would be a voice in those conversations about everything that's going on in college athletics. Someone who had football experience and football chops, who could be a great partner with Coach Rule and helping him get back Husker football back to where it needs to be. Someone who would fight like heck for our student athletes and our coaches, and maybe most important to me, somebody who wanted to be on Team Nebraska, who understands the special place this is and the special people that we have here, and who understands what a privilege and a responsibility it is to wear the red N, and who would lead us with integrity and competitiveness. So I'm glad to say we found that guy in Troy Dannen. So Troy, welcome to Nebraska.
I would ask when we get to the Q&A if you'll just identify yourself and your affiliation when you ask Troy a question. That'd be great.
Well, good afternoon. I'm going to say this knowing full well my background's in communications, public relations, and I started in sports formation. But I really look forward to working with you. It's an honor to be here. It's a privilege to be here. It's actually something that I never imagined would ever happen in my career here. You know, I've talked a lot about the where. I talked a little bit today about the why, but the what's really important. I'm going to tell you one quick story, and maybe it's too long of a story, but it's about the what. There's 168 hours in a week. Our student athletes sleep 7 hours a night. That means there's 119 left. I'll give them 2 hours a day to eat, sleep, grab something, run to the restroom, call their mom. So that's another 14, so we're down to 105 hours left in the week. They go to class 15 hours a week. They're down to 90. And we tell them to study 2 hours for every hour they're in class, but they don't. They study 1 for 1 maybe. So now we're down to 75 hours left in the week, and they haven't touched a ball, they haven't run, they haven't been in the athletic facilities at all. The NCAA says you get 20 hours to do it. So now we're down from 75 to 55. So they get 55 hours left in the week. And studies have shown that they do commit another 20 hours of their time each week to their craft, whatever that craft is. Time that doesn't count in what the NCAA measures. So that's 35 hours left in the week. Our student athletes, 550 of them, they commit to having 35 hours in the week that's their time. Everything else, they're trying academically, they want to get the degree, they're trying competitively, they want to become better, they want to participate. And I talked about winning in there. When people put as much time, effort, and energy into being as good as they can be, they deserve to win. They want to win academically, they want to win socially. They're committing time that as a college student, I never would have imagined that I'd been capable of doing in order to have success. That's why the 335 or 355 people rather in this department have one commitment. And it is not to put themselves in a position to succeed, but it's to put those athletes in a position to succeed. We know what they do. The time, dedication, effort they give is something special. So when I come here because this is a place I know you can win. I know we can resource them. I know we can recruit them. I know we're going to be able to retain them, but we're going to be able to have success. There are very few places like this. Maybe you can name them on one hand. But for me, I can name one. And that's the job that fortunately enough, 1 week ago, Chris asked me to fill. So with that said, it's question time. I've only got a half bottle of water. If we need another bottle, I'll surely grab one. So fire away.
You mentioned the black. Why do you feel it's important your role to have a relationship with that collective?
Because the number one commitment to success is to the student athlete. And as I mentioned, in the day, that might have been providing a strength coach. In the day, that might have been a laptop. In the day, that might have been a coach who was going to prepare them for the next level. In the day. Today's day is there is a sharing of resources with the student athletes. And so if we're going to compete, if we're going to recruit and retain, everybody in this department has to support what lies ahead for student athletes to be a part of the economic model of this. Today, it's NIL. Tomorrow, it's going to be something different, and we will pivot and evolve into that. But so it would not, I would be missing if I tried to avoid the reality of what the name of the game is today. There are a lot of things, I joke when I went to Tulane, there are no such thing as a transfer portal. Nobody ever contemplated NIL. There was no such thing as a lot of what we're dealing with today. So I will be beside and embrace everybody in the collective and try to make sure our athletes and our coaches know the role of the collective in helping them do their job and helping build winning programs and helping the student athletes benefit from the revenue that's driven by this enterprise.
With your Iowa ties, I'm sure you probably follow what's going on here, even though you're in Washington and other places. I guess kind of what was your observation as you kind of watched what the football program is doing, and how far off do you think it is?
Well, you ask yourself the internal question, why not? And I don't know that. I do know, though, why. I do know the model of what it takes for success. Part of the attraction of this particular job at this particular time is to work with Matt. I've known him for a while. I respect him. Here's the thing about Coach Rule that I really admired at Temple. Nobody ever won the week after they played Temple. Nobody ever won. They were physical. They were tough. You knew it was going to be the most physical game of the year. And that's Big Ten football. I've seen him win at two different places where he came in and when I say built it from scratch, but I don't know if it was from scratch as much as turn it quickly. And when he was hired, I even said this to Trev, put that guy in this gold mine and great things are going to happen. And so, I don't know as much, or frankly, do I even care about maybe the why not? I care about the why now and what can happen. And, part of it, Matt and I have talked a little bit. We're going to be attached to the hip for a while because I need to know what he needs from me in this department in order to succeed. My job, and I told this analogy at different places, nobody gets it, but I'm a Midwest snowplow. My job is to be out in front, plowing things out of the way so they can run uninterrupted behind me. And when I say me, I mean the department. I represent 335 people that work in the department. So get obstacles out of the way so they can succeed. And it's Matt's job, and I've told him this already, it's his job to identify the obstacles, and we'll get them out of the way.
Troy, Jake Bartecki, News Channel, Nebraska. The stadium renovation project, what do you know about it? What do you like? What can you share about plans for that?
Yeah, I really don't know anything about it, quite honestly. I read, when it comes across the ticker in the morning, right? You read about it, but I don't know the fundamentals. It will be something I have to get myself up to speed on very, very quickly. I think I have some meetings as early as Thursday, starting to try to learn a little bit about it. I will say this, and it's true with anything. If it helps us win, great. If it doesn't help us win, I want to win. And so the assessment of anything that we do, stadium, any facility, any infrastructure, any person we hire, any dollar we invest, does it help us win? Does it help us win academically? Does it help us win socially? Or does it help us win on the field? Those are the criteria by which every dollar we spend should be measured.
Troy, Adam Kruger with CBS in Omaha. When it came to this job, when it came open, there was no permanent president in place, and the AD had abruptly just left. Why didn't that deter you or make you hesitant?
The average lifespan of a president in college in the the NCAA at this level is about 4.5 years. If you've been in this game long enough, presidents transition. We transition, everybody transitions, players transition. So number one, don't get caught up in the who and the timing of transitions. As I said, my biggest question was alignment. Regardless of who the players are, is the alignment in place in order for us to have success? And my recipe analogy I really believe in. All the pieces are there to make what we want to make. But in order for the recipe to be complete, you have to have alignment. And so from the time I talked to the governor, to a lot of my discussions with Chris, to just the questions I would poke around a little bit to find out, I'm fully convinced, and I was fully convinced before the job offer came, that the alignment is here in order to succeed.
Troy, Zach Carpenter with Inside Nebraska. Here.
Yeah.
You were at Washington for 6-7 months, and you leave, and I mean your predecessor left here after I think a lot of people thought he was going to be around a long time. So I think a lot of Nebraska fans are curious to know, why is this going to be different? Why is your tenure here going to be different than your short time at Washington?
I'll say this, I've had 4 jobs. I spent 17 years at the High School Association in Des Moines in Iowa. Spent 8 at Northern Iowa. I spent 8 at Tulane, almost 8 at Tulane. You know, the stint at Washington was as much about Nebraska as it was about Washington. I could have stayed at Washington forever if Nebraska had not called. And so, you know, the why, and people can worry about that. You know, number one, and this is a transfer portal related response. A lot of my job the last couple of years has been reminding everybody that it is about this. It is not about this. Players come and go, coaches come and go, athletic directors come and go, but it is about this, the name on the front, and reminding them of that. Number two, and one of the things, and we haven't talked about this, but I suggested to Chris, I asked that my buyout be different. I wanted my buyout to be every dollar that was left on the contract. That doesn't happen. But, you know, for the people who want to question commitment, I wanted to make sure I showed my own financial commitment to the fact that I wanted to be here. You know, I'm 57. I didn't think I had another move when I went to Washington. I didn't go to Washington to move. But coming here, you know, it's more than locale. And the people and the place is a lot of this. But when you put people, place, and the ability to do everything that you aspire to do professionally, there just aren't other places.
Hey, Troy, Sean Callahan with us online. Just being in Big Ten AD, how big of an advantage is that now going forward in college athletics in Big Ten or even SEC?
I think the world is going to revolve around the Big Ten and the SEC. I think we saw it with the college football playoff revenue distribution model that came out. I'm really, really impressed with Commissioner Petiti. I've been around a lot of commissioners. I love his vision. I love his aggressiveness. You know, you want to be at the place. I'll use the Thanksgiving analogy. I sat at the kids' table for a long time. I wanted to be at the grown-ups table, and not in a negative way, but the Big Ten is the table to sit at because that's where decisions will be made, that's where the future will be determined, and that's where fate will be set. And you want to be in those positions rather than wait for somebody else to determine those things for you. So, you know, if I ever left Tulane, it was going to be because of the Big Ten or the SEC, because I want to be at those tables.
Troy, Aaron Sorkin, Monterey. Kind of with that in mind, Nebraska's AAU status, the college football landscape, not just college football, college athletics landscape continues to change, and as the Big Ten becomes more powerful in the SEC, no one wants to lose their footing. So I'm curious about getting Nebraska back into the AAU and how that can then benefit what you're going to be able to do on the athletics side.
Well, first, if an athletic director could have influence in the AAU, that would be great. But I do know the metrics, and I understand the metrics from my time at Tulane, sitting at the president's cabinet, discussing AAU almost at every meeting. Obviously, Washington is an AAU, so I understand what it takes. I understand there's a commitment to getting back in the AAU, and I really appreciated that, because you know why? I want to be the best. I want to surround myself with the best. In a lot of ways, sometimes you're defined by who you dance with. And so the idea of the institution being, it is an elite research institution. It should be identified with the other elite research institutions. And I know that commitment's there, and to the role, to the extent that we can help, we're going to be as good in athletics as the university is as a whole. You know, we are not our own entity. Even in Nebraska, we are not our own entity. And we got to understand, you know, we need to be collaborative, and we need to help each other in any way we can. And if there's a way that we can assist in the pursuit, we will. I do have a little bit of background and knowledge, and I don't know whether the president's ever going to call on me, but if he does, I'll be there. Thanks.
What does it look like to fight for student athletes and coaches in Big Ten and NCAA?
So, in those rooms, they are frightfully provincial. Those who fight successfully fight on behalf of the whole, not on behalf of their own. It's incumbent upon me in those rooms to understand where our own fit in the whole. And how do we fight for our own by fighting for the whole? And I think I have a pretty good idea. But, you know, those who stand up and it's me, my, our versus we, us, they don't get as far, and they don't get people to listen to them. So there's a collaborative piece to this. But I will also tell you this, I can't wait for the day to stand up and call the supervisor of officials and complain about a call, because I do it all the time. And you know, you have to advocate and defend when your students are put in a less than advantageous position. And at the same time, there are ways to do it. I'm not one who believes in doing it through the media. I'm one who believes in doing it through phone calls. And I talked to Chris about this. There's going to be a time when I'm going to ask my president to call the commissioner and say this, that, or the other thing. That's how things get done in reality. But I will also not be afraid to speak very transparently and very public about what I believe. Process and getting those things addressed. I'm not sure arguing in the where they're we buy ink by the barrels is the right place to do it from an effectiveness standpoint.
Is there an example, maybe this didn't happen at Washington yet, is there an example of Tulane you can recall where, you know, the effective change in the economy?
Oh, I'm sitting here in hem and haw. Like nothing comes to the top of my mind. But the reason I got involved in all the governance stuff when I was at Tulane was to understand the mechanics of what really happens and how it happens. To understand who the players are, who the voices are that are respected. To understand when we need to get something done, who do I call, instead of just throw up my hands in frustration. And so I've been probably as deeply and as thoroughly involved in NCAA governance over the last 5 years as anybody in the country. So, you know, one, it's helped to build a network, but two, it's helped understand how to navigate that network, because you know, the NCAA is Charlie Baker has his hands full. You know, he has a group of schools who have almost nothing in common, but we're trying to govern them to a commonality. And so I really respect Governor Baker and respect what he's trying to accomplish. I think it's a very tough environment. You know, I think standing up for and representing the institution and its student athletes, though, is something that you will never have to question whether that's happening or not. Thanks.
Is being on the football competition committee last 2 years, what has that taught you, and maybe that you didn't know? How did that make you a better administrator?
Well, I would say, like, if I had hair, I would have pulled it out over why we don't have helmet communication devices by now. We tried for 3 years. And, you know, why people argue against certain things and who has a voice at the table to make those arguments sometimes gets very, very frustrating. That said, I think I learned more from meetings with the NFL competition committee. You I think you will see more and more commonalities and similarities in how the games look. I don't think we have data. I would tell you just in general, I can get emotional, but I don't make emotionally based decisions. But we don't have a lot of data to make data-based decisions in some of the things we want to do in college football. So a little bit of my push has been to get more data, health and safety data in particular, as we look at what does fall camp look like, as we look at what are the right number of days, should we start earlier, the number of games that's going to be added for the playoff. A lot of those things we're guessing, we just don't have data. So I would tell you, what have I learned? Who the players in the room are makes a big difference, and how to sell things that you want to get done. Data sells, and emotion doesn't. So anything we do has to be data driven. Well, I think from the governor, I wanted to know if my perception of the state was true. I talked a lot about wanting to come home. I've never lived in Nebraska. I lived across the river for 48 years, but I thought I knew. What the governor did was affirm for me what I thought I knew from a people standpoint. Because everything is about people and everything is about relationships. Nothing happens without either one of those things being strong. And I wanted to know that those things were going to be strong here. That's what I got from the governor. His passion for the state, it was, I hung up the phone and I smiled for an hour, just listening to him and how it resonated with me. From Matt, I talked a little bit to Matt about what he needs in a partner. And your coaches in this enterprise, when it's a $100 million enterprise in football, within the bigger enterprise of the department, he and I have to be great partners. I got to work for him. I've got to advocate for him, and I've got to champion him. I've got to champion his players. I've got to champion his program. And what does he need? Because we have the same end goal in mind. It's add another trophy to the trophy case. I don't know what that path is. He does. And so it's his job to put me on that path. And then there'll be times when I can contribute to him and help him. I'd just be another set of eyes. But I don't know whether we should play odd or even fronts. I can't help him in that way. But I do know how to navigate the landscape. I do know that if recruitment and retention of players is priority number one for him, it's priority number one for me. So I think it's what I learned. I've known Matt long enough. I thought we could be good partners. But also, and I told him this, if he's not completely comfortable with me, tell me, and I won't be a part of this. Because I want him to succeed. I considered him a friend before I came here. I'll consider him a friend someday down the line. I want him to succeed. And so I needed to know that he was good with me as much as I was going to be good with him.
How long, when did you guys forge that friendship? I was Steve Sipple
Yeah.
from Hustler Online. How long have you been friends with Matt? How did it come about?
It really was back to his days coaching at Temple when I was in the league. And, I think we share a mutual friend in Pat Kraft, and it's been written about. But, Pat and Matt are close, and I would say Pat's one of my 2 or 3 closest friends in the profession. All the way back to with Pat when I was at Northern Iowa and Loyola came into the league, and he was the director of marketing at Loyola University in Chicago. So, there's a lot of relationship, going back what we just said, people and relationships. There are a lot of relationships in this business, and I think it was through Pat that Matt and I first started to connect and realized, we have a lot in common. Our wives have been texting throughout this. They've known each other, and so in some ways, it almost feels like family walking in and working with that football staff.
Jonathan saw this earlier today, but Pat Chun got watching the job. Obviously, unique circumstances in that state in terms of college athletics right now. Curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I love Pat. Pat's great, and I'm thrilled that happened because Washington deserves something really, really good. someone really, really good, and Pat is that guy. Pat knows the landscape. I'm just thrilled for him. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Joe Buda is to my left, and I'm Mike Barron. We're former players. We're here representing the HFLA, Husker Football Lettermen's Association. And our goal is to kind of become the team behind the team. How do you feel about groups like us?
When I sit in front of the football team, I will tell them, and I know you got more, but this is a big deal to me. We don't own the program. The players playing today don't own the program. You do. The players who played here, the players who built it, own the program. We're renting it. When they get their degree, they can claim ownership. But they're renting it, and they're working on the backs of people who built this thing over years and years and years. Never, ever forget it. You can say there's how different it is today with the student athletes than it was before, but it has to be reiterated. Who came before them carved a path for their success. Don't ever forget it.
Yeah, we're from Coach Devaney's years, so we're a couple old fossils. I think the governor was on the team once upon a time. No, he was really good. But Joe and I are on the board of the Husker Football Lettermen's Association. I'm the vice president. Joe, because he's bigger, is the sergeant in our arms.
It goes well beyond football, 24 sports, you know, the alums. It's true with every sport, track and field, golf, every sport. Don't forget who built the program, and don't forget who carved the path that we get to walk down today.
Well, congratulations from the group on your appointment.
Thank you.
Troy, we've heard ADs in the past say Nebraska has no debt. It's rare. I mean, you walk into that. I mean, how in your career, how rare is it to walk into a place that really doesn't have standing debts and things to worry about as a department?
Well, I would say it's probably unheard of. If you go through most athletic budgets, there is a pretty good sizable 8-figure debt service line for most of them. You know, what's been done here for years and years and years is really remarkable. It's a great credit. I mean, to a lot of people, I'd say credit to the ADs, but a credit to the fan base, a credit to the administration, a credit to everybody who was a part of letting this happen without debt. The advantage of that today is the uncertainty and unpredictability of what lies ahead for us. That is one burden that we will not carry into that future. And so I would say it allows you to be a little more nimble. It allows you to be a little more quickly able to adapt to what comes. The one thing that's absolute that's going to happen, there will be a line item in our budget for student athletes at some point in time. And I don't know what form that takes. I don't know whether the courts and or legislators force that on us. I don't know how much of it is we will be proactive and put that plan in place ourselves as an enterprise. But that will be coming. And it is not optional. And I talked a lot about NIL today in 1890. That is what NIL will transition into. And we better be supporting it to the max today, because as we transition, we will be supporting it to the max tomorrow. I said this earlier, and I hate to repeat myself, but we've always focused on coach recruitment and retention and how important that is. People. Time to focus on student-athlete recruitment and retention. And it's a different model. Some people don't like it. And those who don't want to embrace it, that's fine. I know this, we will embrace it. Because that is when I say the price of success, coaches' contracts, price of success. And we will be able to pay the price for success.
Troy, we've gotten to some pretty big-time bowl games the past couple of years. Do you look at the expanded playoff as an exciting kind of piece of the future here for Nebraska?
We're managing to get in the 12. I mean, and one thing Coach and I have talked about is how do we get into the 12? I love the expanded playoff. You know, 4, 6, 8, 12. Everybody in the 12 will walk into this thing thinking they have a chance to win the whole thing. And I think it's going to be great for the game. The one thing I will just tell you I worry about, I do want to make sure that the 133 schools that play FBS football, we're all chasing the same trophy. And those who, you know, whether it's financial wherewithal or from governance or whatever else, fall away from that ability. College football's it's, professional football and college football has an outsized role in society. I don't want to lose that. I want the game to be healthy. I don't want just us to be healthy, and I don't want just the Big Ten to be healthy. But we all have a responsibility to the good of the game, and I can't tell you exactly how that manifests itself going forward, but it is important. I think the 12-team playoff will actually be good for the game, good for the whole.
Troy, Joseph Meyer, Dannen, Nebraska. What did your experience in Corvallis and Memphis over the weekend tell you about this fan base and about this university as a whole?
Boy, my eyes were open. I walked into a restaurant. Chris, we were in this restaurant having barbecue the afternoon before the game, and if there were 200 people in there, 175 were wearing Nebraska red. Fan bases make stuff happen. We can put all the good people and but I call it the give a darn factor. The give a darn factor has to be high. And sometimes that means people get out of shape pretty quick when things don't go their way. So be it. It sure beats them not caring. And so that passion, again, if I need a reaffirmation, it's there. But how proud people were of their teams and of their university and of their program. That stood out to me in both places. I will say, and you will hear me say this a lot over time, I want you to be proud. And we're going to lose a game. I still want you to be proud of the program because of who's coaching it, who's playing in those games, and who they are. And the fact that it's yours. I want you to be proud of it. Man, I saw a lot of pride and a lot of passion and a lot of caring. And if I'd seen more balls go in the hole, I might have seen 2 wins. We just didn't shoot well, right? Both games. But I really like the coaches. It was pretty neat for me to go, even though I kind of have known Amy, and it's been a long time since I've connected personally with Fred, to be able to go to NCAA tournaments and maybe have your first interaction with them at the national championship event was pretty cool.
Aaron Bonner, Nebraska Public Media. So diversity, equity, and inclusion programs have been a bit of a topic of debate across the state and across the country. What's your vision for what that looks like here at the NU Athletic Department?
We got to take care of our kids. We have a more diverse athletic department than any place else on campus. Those kids have demands, expectations, beliefs. We need to support them in every way that we possibly can. And so that is the fundamental. That is the fundamental. I think I will tell you, I learned a lot because I didn't know what I didn't know prior to George Floyd when I was at Tulane. And so I learned a lot from them. And so it's a two-way street. But the athletes we have that we are recruiting are going to come from all over the country and some from all over the world. And they come in here with their own beliefs, expectations, and it's up to us to support and empower those inside the department. I want this to be a place where everybody wants to come and everybody knows they can have a chance to succeed.
Take 1 or 2 more. Okay. About volleyball. What impression from afar and what do you hope to accomplish as you take over?
Well, I'll say this. I mean, we have the John Wooden of of volleyball right in our midst. I'm meeting with Coach tomorrow. As a matter of fact, he's the first coach I'm going to have a chance to sit down and have my full one-on-one with. I've been an admirer for a long time. Go back to the high school when I'm days at the high school association when all of our great Western Christian girls came here to play. We couldn't keep them in the state of Iowa, and to the point of where I was at Northern Iowa, and we came over 2 or 3 times and had great teams and couldn't get out of that building. Volleyball special here. I will tell you the highlight of the day was my daughter getting that volleyball jersey standing up at the front today. She will wear that thing for days and days and days in school. Volleyball fan, but she knows what Nebraska volleyball is as well, let alone what happened inside the stadium last year. But there isn't a sport here that can't be Nebraska volleyball. There is not a sport here. And if we don't get there, we have to be introspective and figure out why. And it's not a criticism or condemnation. It's what do we have to do to become Nebraska volleyball? And they give us, I talked about standards to set. And every decision we make, every action we take, we should set the standard that others aspire to achieve. It's not just externally, it's internally as well. So how do we all meet the standard that Nebraska Volleyball has shown us inside the department?
Anything else? Last one, Andrew?
Yeah, Andrew Ozaki from KETV. Going back to the stadium expansion, will you take time to reevaluate whether this helps win programs, or you see any delay, or you think that, is there urgency to keep this moving on?
Well, I can't even answer the delay because I don't know what the timeline is. So there's that much for me to learn. I need to understand the model. I need to understand the financing behind it. I need to understand the objective behind it. I need to understand not just the cost of it, but what is the ROI on it. This is it's a high interest rate environment right now, and so I don't know what the actual costs are. I don't know what the design is, and frankly, I don't know what the buy-in is from everybody on the press. So I've got a lot to learn, but it has to come fast. I do understand that because the longer it takes, I will tell you, the more expensive anything's going to be. So I'll get after it. I'll get after it pretty quickly.